Today I want to talk about a development finance idea that I've just been mulling over in my head for the last couple weeks, and it has to do with what is required for development to happen in your community, right? So for change to happen, development to take place, there's kind of this three-circle Venn diagram that I've been thinking about, where these three criteria need to overlap in order for development to happen. And so we've talked about it before. One of them is if you can't get the rent, you can't build the building. So I'll link to that video above. And that falls in the feasibility circle, right? So if development isn't feasible, it's not going to happen. There's also a bucket or a circle on this Venn diagram for legal, right? Is the project legal? Is it allowed to be built in your market, in your community, in this location, right? So you have feasibility, is it legal? And then the last one is simply, is the site available, right? Because you could have a feasible project, a legal project, and the site is not available for any reason or no reason. So those are the three circles of the Venn diagram. Is it feasible? Is it legal? And is the land or site available? So let's unpack these a little bit more. Feasibility could mean any sort of thing, right? The overarching idea is if you can't get the rent, you can't build the building. So if the rents don't compensate the developer or the development for the risk of building the project, it's not going to get built. But there's other things to consider as well. So another idea that comes up to play, especially here in North Carolina, is when it comes to feasibility is utilities. Right, so does that site have utilities available? Do those utilities have the capacity, right? So you could have sewer available to the site, but either that specific pipe doesn't have capacity for the sewer that project is going to bring to that site, or I guess flow from that site. And then same thing with down at the sewage treatment plant. If the capacity isn't there, it doesn't matter if the pipe's big enough or not, it's not going to work. So feasibility can be all sorts of things. Another very important part of feasibility is the idea of transaction price, right? So you could have the site for sale, it's available, but the transaction price is too high for the site or the project to make sense. So those are some kind of secondary level feasibility impacts. And feasibility is directly related to land price. So we talked about that, right? So is the land available? Yes, maybe at a specific price. But also, you could have a site that's just not available. The owner of the site doesn't want to sell. It could also come to a question of, is it available, is a greenfield site available because that's what's required for the project? Or if the site that's available is an infill site, right, you're going to have to either account for demolition costs, or redevelopment costs, which also impact feasibility. So land availability and feasibility are absolutely related, but they're not the same thing. And then last but not least is the desired use legal, right? So in some instances, there's no availability, or a certain use is completely illegal, right? So locally, I think about rooming houses or boarding houses, right? So multi-unit development with shared kitchens. They used to have them 100 years ago. They're pretty much illegal all across a lot of markets these days. The conversation of missing middle housing brings this to light too. If residential development is allowed there, but it's only single family, and duplexes, triplexes, quads, multifamily housing is allowed elsewhere, but not in that location, right? So in that location, it may be deemed illegal. So those are the three sectors, or I guess buckets, for this three-circle Venn diagram. So for development to happen, you need to have the development needs to be legal, needs to be feasible, and the site needs to be available. If you have any thoughts on this, I'd love to hear them in the comments below, and happy to answer any questions you have.